Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer. And welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I get to spend some time with someone and get to know a little bit more about their perspective on movies. And this week, for a first-time guest, we have Luke. Thank you, Luke. Thanks for coming on.
Nice to be on. Hello.
And Luke, if you would like to shamelessly plug where people can find you in terms of movie-related or anything like that, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, yes, and as mentioned, my name is Luke, and I love movies, talking about movies, writing about movies. So the best way to find me or approach me would be on Letterboxd. It would be In Movies Lost, or my website where I post, or blog where I post reviews 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And the address is lostinmovies.co.uk, because yes, I am UK based.
Awesome. So obviously check out all of Luke's things in terms of movies. And now we're going to get to know Luke a little bit more. And either everybody's favorite or least favorite question to be asked is, so Luke, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie has been, for a while now, Lost in Translation.
Okay.
And yeah, it's kind of one of those people, when they see me and they hear that, they don't really expect it. I don't know why. But yeah, it's been ever since I first seen it, which I believe it was around 2005, 6, roughly. So when I basically I seen it when I turned 14, 15, and it just struck with me. I don't know what. I don't even know I understood everything, what was happening thematically in that movie at that age, but it still like stayed with me for a really long time. And ever since then, obviously, I've seen it a bunch of times and love it more and more.
So I'm a huge Bill Murray fan, and that is definitely it's a change of pace. It's not like a very quirky, like it's like him being charming and stuff like that, but like it's a different kind of role, and it's interesting seeing Scarlett Johansson like blown up from Marvel kind of thing and giving such a interesting performance. There's such they're interesting pair on screen, and it's thought-provoking, it's emotional, and it's a fun journey to go on with them, and definitely one of Sofia Coppola's best. So
100%. I honestly believe it started Bill Murray's like second career, because ever since then he's kind of been dabbling more about he did the Broken Flowers in 2005 and a bunch of other like Wes Anderson movies where it's not always just this quirky character. We've known him from like 80s and 90s. And when it comes to Scarlett, I still believe this was her big break, because Match Point didn't come until 2005. And before that, she did like 8-Legged Freaks. I know she did the big movie with the Horse Whisperer with Robert Redford's movie, and I know she kind of gained some steam from that. But I honestly don't believe we would have had Scarlett Johansson as we have her or know her now if it wasn't for Lost in Translation. I think she still doesn't get enough credit in that movie.
Yeah, I think it's at this point where it's just like most people know her from like being Black Widow. That is just like,
yes,
she's a talented actress, just isn't like throwing on a leather suit and kicking ass. So there you go. Now, Luke, taking things way back, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
I honestly, I don't know, because I've loved movies ever since I can remember. I love talking, like mainly watching the TV at home. So yeah, my earliest, I honestly don't. I listen to a lot of interviews with famous like filmmakers or actors, and they always say, "Oh, I remember clearly when I went to the cinema and I seen, I don't know, Star Wars or Bambi or whatever, like based on how old they are." And I wish I would have that kind of memory where like I remember seeing like some animated movies back in the day when I was like 5 or 6, but I cannot remember what they were. But no, I've always been the one glued to the TV. So ever since I was as far as I can remember, I was always the one fascinated with the TV, with the moving pictures, because to me it didn't make sense. And what really didn't make sense was my parents used to have a video camera, and obviously old VHS. So then, what really blew my tiny mind back then was seeing myself on a screen, and suddenly I was the main star, and I was like, okay, how does this work?
Yeah. You starred in your earliest movies, earliest memories.
Yes, exactly.
Now, here's a couple of questions in terms of like some of your favorites in terms of film. And Luke, what's your favorite genre of film?
I don't have a necessarily favorite genre. I think because I genuinely love every single genre. I don't, as long as it's done well. But if I had to guess, or if I had to pick like few, I'm a big action guy. So basically any decent action movie. I love sci-fi. Like sci-fi is really great if done correctly. But yeah, like give me anything. Like it's not. I know plenty of people. Sometimes it can be like, oh, I don't really like westerns, or I don't really like, I don't know, romantic or rom-coms. And it's like, no, necessarily. There are always great ones in every single genre. It's more about there is a certain genre that are like more bad than good.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge action and science fiction fan as well. I think we just became friends. So there you go. Now, Luke, do you have a particular favorite filmmaker?
So when it comes to this, I'm boring. I'm basic. Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, Ridley Scott, and when it comes to from these, I would, I grew up on, like, so from the newer ones, from the like new wave, I would say Damien Chazelle is the one to watch. Denis Villeneuve, obviously, what he's doing is great. And Sofia Coppola. Sofia, like, I wish she would direct more. That's my only problem with her. She doesn't direct nearly as much. So, but definitely, I do. But I'm basic when it comes to that. Just you're stereotypical Spielberg fan.
Yeah, I feel like since like I really started like deep diving into seeing like everything when I first started like my channel and stuff back in 2016, it's like basically we've just gotten the Beguiled and On the Rocks from Sofia Coppola. And then Damien Chazelle is one of those, like, honestly, like I have to revisit First Man because I don't know if I was as fair with First Man compared to like, because I think you can find so many people who absolutely love Whiplash. I was just talking to somebody about Whiplash and La La Land. And then, of course, Denis Villeneuve, anything that he puts out there is like must see. And obviously Dune was one of like the biggest movies to come out last year. Yes. And we'll be ready for part 2. So 100%. Now, who are some of your favorite actors and actresses?
Well, now I think I'm going to show my age. And as mentioned, I grew up in the 90s, and I grew up watching action movies mainly. So like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone. I understand they are not the best actors by any means necessary. But when it comes to that specific genre, they do their job. And like when it comes to more serious actors, like nowadays, again, like I need to be a bit more modern. In a way that there are so many new people coming around when I didn't grow up watching them. So like for example, Jessica Chastain, perfect example. Or exactly, and I just start to realize Denzel Washington. He's been steady and he's been great in every single movie. So there's so many to choose from. Honestly, like Benedict Cumberbatch would be another one to watch for. Like, but again, I have a soft spot for like Cameron Diaz, because ever since I seen her in Mask and like read a couple of interviews with her, I was like, oh, all right, she has something to say. So I have soft spot for her. Again, something I grew up on. So
basically, you grew up in the '90s, watched The Mask. You probably
100%. Yeah. Yes.
Cameron Diaz probably caught your attention.
100%.
And showing some love because like the right movie, he can give a really impressive performance. I don't think I don't think Arnold Schwarzenegger has really ventured out too much into different kinds of roles, except for like maybe Maggie.
I was gonna say Maggie. I still haven't seen it, to be perfectly honest, but I heard good thing, like a decent things. Like he's never gonna be. I think that's the thing. He's self-aware. Like even Sly, he's self-aware. They know they're not trained. Oscar. Well, Sly used to be Oscar contender. I still remember the surprise where he didn't win for Creed. That was plenty of people were
was great, but like, come on. I know I was definitely rooting for Sylvester Stallone. I'm like, just give this man that Oscar.
And he was great in Creed, to be honest. He was great in that role. Again, but like I think they are both clever enough to be self-aware that they will never try to Sly tries. Like you can tell he sometimes shoots for a moon and sometimes it doesn't work. When it comes to Arnie, he's just living his life now and he's being inspiring person. So
sometimes he's just out there throwing out all the ice puns he could possibly think of.
100%.
100%. Now, Luke, do you have a film that you could just throw on and literally watch any day?
See, I think I'm weird when it comes to this because I don't. Like I like, for example, my favorite movie, Lost in Translation. I cannot imagine watching it every single day because to me, it's the kind of like favorite food, paradox, isn't it? Like, if you actually consume anything every single day, eventually it will not be your favorite food. Eventually you will hate it. And it's, so I cannot, I guess, there are definitely movies I've seen a lot of times.
Yes.
So, like, for example, like Angels and Demons, because it's dumb, but it's kind of fun. It's like, and it's, it's dumb fun, but or like First Blood, Sly, talking about Sly, I must have seen that movie quite a few times. Or Indiana Jones, the entire trilogy. Look, those, there's only, the fourth movie is not that bad, but there is a trilogy. Let's just.
I was not going to correct you, for the record.
No, but I must have seen those movies because I grew up. Believe it or not, I've seen First Blood when I was about 12, so probably a bit too early. Because it is a bit dark. It's a darker movie than the second and third one because we remember Rambo being this shoots 100 people kind of guy, but in the first one, no, it's more of a war drama with some serious PTSD and some serious Vietnam stuff. I didn't know what was happening, but I just knew it was like, oh damn, something serious happening.
Yeah, and then Rambo First Blood Part 2 came out and like slow motion, like.
Yeah, well, that's the perfect example would be Hot Shots Part 2. That's that's where it came from, right? And that's where it kind of cemented the idea of Rambo being this killing machine.
Yeah.
And then people often they don't understand or they don't come back, and then they maybe stumble upon the First Blood, like the actual First Blood, first Rambo. That's not even titled Rambo; it's just First Blood.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh wait, this is not. Oh, he's barely killed anybody in this movie, and it's more about him. And speaking of Sly, at the end, that's still I think one of his best performances. Like I think really when he has the like moment, the final dialogue when he breaks apart, it's just it's
what that scene with Troutman at the very end, that's some intense acting. You brought up Hot Shots. What I generally think of is UHF, where Weird Al spoofs into the same thing. The 80s. Now, what's a film that you feel extra connected to because it relates to another interest of yours?
I don't have a specific film like that again, but I do have a specific genre, if that helps, and it would be war movies because when I was growing up, I was really into World War II. Like learning as much as possible from it, or learning as much about it, to be more precise. And well, technically from it as well, because those who don't know the history are deemed to repeat it, something like that. But then and so I really love war movies, especially from World War II. So Saving Private Ryan, I remember that was a big one because that actually came out when I was 8, believe it or not. So I wasn't allowed to watch it for the longest time because of the Normandy scene at the very beginning. Because there was some.
Very.
I still remember when it was. You might probably hear some accent. I'm not originally from the UK. I'm originally from a non-English speaking country and from Czech Republic. So I still remember in the Czech Republic, this primetime station for the first time ever when they put it out in 2000. And there was a discussion about, should this be in a prime time because the first half an hour is so graphic? What about it? Think of the children, the South Park. So wouldn't somebody think of the children? And that was basically that. And I was not allowed to watch it until a few years after. So, but yeah, I know like, war movies always fascinate, especially World War II movies always fascinate me.
Yeah, I know my grandfather fought in World War II, and I used to watch a lot of, I would watch The Great Escape with my grandfather all the time. Whenever that popped up on TV, my grandpa wanted to watch it. And Patton, that was another one he always wanted to watch.
I've only seen Great Escape once, and I need to rewatch it because I remember thinking I was probably too young. I seen it when I was about 15, 16. So I remember thinking it was a bit too long. So I need to definitely, it's on my rewatch list. And Patton I still haven't seen, to be honest. So, but I want to see everything. So it's on my.
It's a really impressive performance. Like George C. Scott's like next
That's
level
what I'm in here.
Performance. And he's just like, Oscar, I don't want your Oscar. It's just like, no, I'm not taking it. Goodbye. And it was written by Francis Ford Coppola, which is interesting as well. But he didn't direct it, but he did write the screenplay for it. Now, Luke, who's a movie character that you feel like you have a connection with on a personal level?
I had to think about this question, I think the longest, because I don't really think of movies like that. Maybe I don't really see myself on the screen that often, which is perfectly fine. That's why I like movies. I like to explore different people or different lives or different perspectives. But I really associate it weirdly with Emma Stone's character from La La Land, about the dreamer moves someplace else and just pursuing the big dream and just working, and then the end, the big audition scene where she kind of explains the backstory and everything and just has the great big solo at the end. It's just great, and I just thought, it's quite nice.
To be perfectly honest, I'm a little shocked that you didn't say that you related to John Rambo.
Well, I used to pretend. I'm not gonna say I didn't pretend when I was growing up that I was Rambo after watching those movies. Because
did you do it in slow motion, just like in Rambo First Blood Part 2?
I tried really hard.
But I could definitely appreciate it, especially I feel like that's why La La Land connected with so many people, is because that is a relatable thing. They're both chasing their dreams, and it's sad that sometimes to do that you might have to sacrifice other things, other aspects of your life. And then La La Land is just nope, you're not going to get it all at the end of this movie. And you're just why? And that's, honestly, Emma Stone's so great in that, and you can definitely feel that connection and that passion, especially in that character. Now, Luke, what's a film that you feel like you love, but you think people would be surprised that you love?
I don't think I have a one specific movie, because I think the more you go through my ratings on something like Letterboxd or IMDb, you would be surprised. Oh, he gave 10 stars to this or 5 stars on Letterboxd to this. Really? Yeah. And it's just mostly mostly the 80s or 90s stuff. For example, Mortal Kombat from the 1995, right?
5 out of 5.
100%. Had I watched it now, to be fair, I don't really need to, because that's one of the movies I watched probably 5, 6 times, which is, I don't really rewatch movies that often, to be honest, because I'm trying to watch new movies. But I still remember it quite, well, and I I can tell, it's not the greatest movie. And it's, if you think about it, the rules of the tournament, they don't actually make that much sense.
There are no rules.
Yeah, exactly. There are no rules. And they always and throughout the movie, he always says, "Oh, the rules are perfectly clear." And it's like, no, they're not.
Are they?
Yeah, exactly. But that's one of those movies that's just so fun. So I can, and it's the soundtrack, the performances, the martial arts. Yeah, the theme song, exactly. That's the thing. Or I don't know, Mortal Kombat would be one of them. But I love plenty of dumb action pieces from 80s, 90s that basically I try to, the way I approach rating any movie, even now, is it's not about is this the best movie. I know plenty of people, they are quite sparse when it comes to their 5 out of 5. This is complete masterpiece. For me, it's more about yes, but also how does it stack when it comes to what it wants to do and its genre. For example, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, which doesn't make sense. The title itself doesn't make sense.
Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Yes, exactly. So but how does it stack up? Because obviously, had you compared it to something like, I don't know, Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, those big hitters, obviously it's not 5 out of 5 or not even 4. But how does it stack up in its action genre? How does it stack up with everything that came before and after? I strongly believe we should judge movies based on what they were trying to achieve, rather than, oh, this is not an Oscar winner, therefore it can never be fine. I don't think I see how certain people think like that, and again, that's their narrative. But I feel like we should really judge movies based on what they were trying to go for.
That's very fair, and I love Mortal Kombat. That's one of the kinds of movies I quote that way too much with my friends, and I could just throw that on with my friends anytime and sit there and just
yes, 100%. It's kind of it's kind of like a proper switch your brain off movie. I know there's a typical excuse, for example, Fast and Furious movies. I'm not that big into those, to be honest, because I cannot switch my brain off that much. But I understand why certain people can. So perfectly fine. But for me, Mortal Kombat would be, switching my brain off. It doesn't make sense. Just enjoy the ride and just pretend, oh yeah, these rules do make sense.
The whole entire time I watch the new one, I'm just sitting there I want to turn this off and go watch the 95 Mortal Kombat.
Really? Because I've actually loved the it's weird. I thought I'm not gonna I thought it's gonna be great. Then I read a lot of reviews saying, oh, it's kind of not great. I was like, oh, okay, Jesus. And then it arrived on one of the streaming services I'm paying for. So I was like, oh, yeah, let's watch it.
Yeah, on HBO.
And I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. Even my girlfriend, who's not really into these movies, she actually paid attention. She actually, for her to watch a movie without her phone, it's she likes it. And she actually paid attention. And she thought it was great. And I was like, even though there wasn't any tournament, really, it's kind of cheating. There's no tournament. Yeah. But I was like, I understand what they were going for. And again, I understand where they were setting up something. And I really liked how they, they didn't shy away from the violence, the blood, the gore. But at the same time, they didn't make it their main purpose. It wasn't Saw, it wasn't there's a Mortal Kombat, but this time it's Saw. So, everything, there's all blood and gore, So I really actually enjoyed it. But yeah, 95 is definitely more fun version of that.
Yeah, I feel for me, it just, I love the beginning, I love the end, and I loved Kano. I feel Kano knew what movie he was in. And
I was just going to ask.
That movie.
I was just gonna ask, how am I the only one who thinks that the best character should have been the worst character by far? I remember, because the guy, he's being a dick. He's being he's proper, at one point he just tries to attack Sonya, and just and he then obviously at the end, he spoiler alert, he becomes full-on villain. And it's just, I was like, but his performance is so great. Am I the only one
who was the most fun in the whole entire movie? It's just
yeah. He
To be fair, Kano was so much fun in the 95 one too. He had some of the best lines, just like absurd. Oh, but now, Luke, my last question for you then is, what do you love most about movies?
What I like most about movies, I always felt like it's the most accessible form of art. I think people often forget because it's so accessible.
Yeah.
To a fault, I think it's the people often forget that it's still an art form. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes I don't understand, for example, what I've just seen. Like I like to watch these trippy movies like Lost Highway, or for example, one of my favorite directors. How did I not mention him? David Lynch. He literally, Mulholland Drive would be in my top 5. Like Mulholland Drive is one of my all-time movies, and I still remember I watched it too young, and didn't get it. And then now I watched it 4 or 5 times, and I'm still like I feel like I'm 90%, maybe 80% there because I read a lot about it. I read all the clues and everything about it. So and I think there's something there. I'm not 100% there, but I feel like 85% there. But here's the thing, right? Even if you don't get the movie, you still understand how to make you feel.
Yeah.
So I plenty of times, like I can see a movie, and like I didn't understand anything about it, but I loved it. Like the perfect example, like recently, for the first time ever, I watched Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay.
And I knew it's a different movie. I knew there's like an experience, but I wasn't prepared for how different it's gonna be. And I still didn't understand, I still didn't understand everything, but I loved it. Like I really liked it to the point where I was like, I need to rewatch it again because I just feel like I've missed something great. And to me, that's the kind of, I guess the connection, the connection that makes with you, like if you admire a great painting, for example, the painting, obviously there's no sound or anything like that, and it's just one kind of angle most of the time. Whereas, so it either connects with you or not. Usually the longer you stare at it, you usually don't either fall in love with it, I guess. And maybe some people do, I don't know. But when it comes to movies, it's really, there's so many elements that go into making it one single movie. Like, anything from cutting to soundtrack to performances to directing, screenplay. Well, I don't have to tell you. So it's interesting to see like how sometimes there's a movie that all the elements are great and they have everything going for them, and the movie somehow is not great.
Yeah.
Or the otherwise, like sometimes you can see, oh, this is kind of strange, this is strange, but somehow I still love the movie. Like somehow I still, there's something about that, and to me, that always fascinates.
And that's definitely something really special about film. You can have those things where it's just like all the pieces are there and it just doesn't connect, and then you could be like, this movie looks so stupid, and then you're just like the Lego movie. I remember when that movie was coming out, I'm like, this looks so stupid. Like, who the hell came up with this idea? And then leave the theater, I'm like, my God, who wrote this? Because this is genius. As my now fiance and I are laughing way more than any of the kids in that theater were. But that was a great answer. I appreciated that, Luke. Now, to wrap up the show, I always like to have a little wild card where my guest gets to ask me a question. So what's a question you would like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
What's the question I would like to ask you? Okay, let's say if there's no such thing as COVID at the moment, and you are allowed to travel anywhere in the world, you have unlimited budget, top 3 places where would you like to take you said fiance, right?
Yep.
Let's say, you know what? 3 places where would you love to take your fiance, and then 3 places where would you go just either by yourself or with a couple of buddies for some sort of like, I don't know, buddy trip or something like that.
Okay.
Do you have something like that?
It's interesting. I think I know 3 countries that I would love to go to. One's Ireland. I've always wanted to go to Ireland. I I always enjoy like Celtic culture and stuff like that. I love Irish music. It's such a beautiful looking country. I'm an Italian American. I would love to go to Italy someday and see the land of my peoples, even though I am terrible at speaking Italian, so I definitely need to work on that before I went. And I'd love to go to Australia, even though I feel like half the things there want to kill me.
Yeah.
But and especially now, because now I have a bunch of friends from Australia. I'm like, I could go to Australia. I could see like Australia and all it has to offer, and meet see some of my friends for real. Like close tie with that is New Zealand, because I'd love to go see like where they made Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, and the place that created Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
So going with my friends, I feel like all my friends just love movies, so I feel like we just go to the movie theater. So that's funny, but like for me personally, I don't know if there would be too much of a differentiation there, but like those are probably like the places I would love to go. Like unless I'm like challenge my friends and I to go out into like the outback and like survive the wasteland. Like the real one.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. But that was a good question. I call myself a hobbit. I do not travel much, but I do hope at some point in my life that I actually get the nerve to like go out and see the world, because legitimately the only time I've been out of America was walking across the bridge at Niagara Falls to Canada. I'm like, does that even count? Because it's like technically I'm in a different country, but I didn't really go that far. So
well, on technicality, yes, it does.
Technically I left, but then I was back within like I think like 2 hours. So I don't think it makes that big of a deal. Like I got food and we walked around like because like Niagara Falls, Canada is really tacky. It's just like very touristy. It's just like there's a Hard Rock Cafe, there's a Rainforest Cafe, there's mini golf, there's a go-kart course.
Oh yeah.
There was
so it's kind of like a Hollywood version of Niagara Falls almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I understand.
So that made me very happy.
That kind of you kind of almost confirmed that it's not a stereotype, but I guess I heard the statistics, so I guess it might be correct. I heard, what is it, 10% of all Americans only have passports, so it's about like 30 something million of Americans actually own a passport, because America is so huge, the land.
Well, and that's the thing too, because like you could go to all kinds of places in America and feel like you're in a different country.
And that's the other thing, it's so diverse. Like, you know, California is different than Texas, and like, you know, Oklahoma would be different, and you know, well,
yeah, because like I'm from New Jersey, so like I'm hopped right in between New York and Philadelphia. And like my brother lives in North Carolina up in the mountains and stuff like that. There's no mountains in New Jersey. This is a pretty flat state. Not as flat as like Iowa, which is just like cornfields, stuff like that. But like I know my fiance Jess she would before COVID would go every year on a trip with her friend Amanda, and they went to Maine, they went to Colorado. Colorado is like very beautiful, all the mountains and stuff. They were going to go to Alaska in 2020. COVID happened.
Yeah.
So, but like I'm sure she'll go on that trip, and like I've been on a plane like 3 times.
Really?
So yeah. I also hate heights. Like I can't even get on a ladder half the time. I'm just like, no thank you. This body was made for the ground. So I've been to Florida, which like I went to Disney World, so it's like touristy as hell. I went to St. Louis in the Midwest, and I went to Arizona, which was probably the most different I've ever been from New Jersey, because it was all desert and stuff like that. So, but yeah, someday it would be cool to go see some places too, where it's like I've seen some movies and stuff like that. Because you know, obviously there's a lot of famous. I would love to see Rome, and especially I took Latin for 5 years in middle school and high school and stuff like that, and my great grandfather was from Rome. So like that would be a really cool thing. And you know, someday.
Well, Italy is to me. I'm in Scotland. I'm not actually in Ireland. I'm in Scotland. So Italy for me, it's only what is it? 3 hours? Not even that. 2 hours maybe. If I wanted to catch a plane. So for me, it's fairly short. I still haven't been. I think if it wasn't for COVID, I would have gone already because it's on my girlfriend's and I list as well.
Nice.
She already was in Rome once. I haven't. But yeah, it was supposed to be great. Like, and yeah, to me, the traveling should be, yeah, movie stuff. So, oh, this is where they shot this. This is where they shot this, and also food because food is great. Like, I was just gonna compliment like St. Louis. You went to St. Louis, so obviously I would imagine you enjoyed some of the local cuisine there.
Oh, there's barbecue joints everywhere.
I heard
Yep.
even Gordon Ramsay always says nobody does barbecue better than Americans because they know you guys know your way around, great barbecue. So they're like, I always said to my girlfriend because I haven't actually been to America at all. So I definitely want to visit at some point and the like not just the California and New York. Yes, I would want to visit those places, but also the southern states just for the cuisine. Well, mainly for the cuisine because I heard so many great things about it.
Yeah, I think some of the big spots might be like St. Louis, Nashville, New Orleans. Like those are some like places to go check out.
That's basically on my checklist. Yeah, exactly those three places.
Like yes, bam, bam, bam. There they are.
Yeah, 100%. Like Nashville, hot wings. St. Louis will be the gumbo. There's gumbo. There's the the movie Chef. Takes place. Takes place. Oh, it's a great movie. I love that movie. Just
that is some serious food porn.
100%.
Jon Favreau shot that so well, and he's just like, I'm gonna enjoy making this movie. Just like I made some Iron Man movies, time to make Chef. So
and that's the thing. Imagine that life, right? Imagine how great of a life that must be. Like having half of Hollywood on a speed dial and be like, "Hey, do you want to appear in my movie for 5 minutes?" Scarlett Johansson, yes, yeah, sure. Yes. Oh, that's the Northman. Do you want to appear in my movie for 2 minutes? Yeah, sure. Sofia Vergara. Oh yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. Robert Downey Jr.
Oh yeah,
you get paid $50 million a movie. You want to pop up in Chef?
Exactly. Just you'll have some nice food, from my food truck. Okay.
There you go.
Like good life.
But there you go. That would be fun, going on a trip with my friends to like all kinds of like movie places. So I'm going to change my answer of a cop out to that one. So there we go. But Luke, this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed chatting some movies with you. And if you want to, shamelessly plug one last time before we wrap up.
Again, on the main things would be lostinmovies.co.uk and Letterboxd. I am on Twitter as well, but I usually just post, use it as some sort of, my new blog post just went live. Check it out. I don't really, spend more time there because it's not great, not great these days. So, yeah.
Twitter's a very interesting place.
So, exactly. But yeah, that's about it. And obviously SiftPop, we both write for SiftPop, even though I, basically half of the stuff sometimes feels like it's from you. And it's, I still haven't dabbled in the reviews. So yeah.
That's because I watch everything. And it's just like, hey, Robert, have you heard of this obscure movie? No. Do you want a review for it? Yeah, sure. Why not?
And I admire that. I admire that.
That's like 90% of my interactions with Robert. So then he gets to read all of them. But Luke, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.